Tip number 4, slightly different strategy here. One of the best ways to switch off is actually to invert that on its head and to think about what could I switch on to that will enable an equivalent sense of recovery. For me, it would be writing music, getting the guitar out and playing. When I do that, it's not that I've switched off, but I'm certainly not thinking about work and challenges, what I have to do tomorrow, the burden of everyday life. Far from it. I am totally absorbed in something that feels nourishing to me. What are your examples? Remember, you may have seen the video we've already done on the importance of psychological recovery, right? The importance of making time for stuff that you love, because it's really a non-negotiable part of your resilience. To what degree can you now start to think about booking, and I really mean this, calendarizing these events in your days or weeks at times when you would like to get the benefits of switching off, right? You switch off by switching on to something else, and consequently you create this state of absorption, non-distraction that, like I said, is really just another way, I think, of facilitating this thing we're going for, this kind of sense of mental recovery. Tip number 5, prioritize mind wandering. Now, this may sound a bit abstract, intangible, and I probably agree with that. I think it's important, though, to underline that just as you can book in absorptive activities, right, to help you feel this sense of switching off by switching on to something you like, it's also really important to make sure your brain has sufficient mind-wandering time. For me, I get this when I go for a walk around my local park, not with a podcast, not with music, but instead with actually nothing at all. And it's difficult, isn't it, to kind of book in or calendarize or commit to nothing, right? To kind of prioritize the absence of doing anything. But from your brain's perspective, as I've really already said, it needs this time. Your default mode network actually becomes more active as your frontal lobe becomes less active. And this is, as the very name suggests, really your brain's default state. Because this is when your brain processes things and forms connections and ultimately becomes more creative. But also it is a necessary part of feeling like you're good at switching off. And again, it's difficult because it necessarily involves clearing some clear space in your day, or maybe just your week, maybe even just your month. But I'd encourage you now to think about, well, maybe just retrospectively, over the last week or month, how much time has your brain had to wander, to not be distracted by your phone or a kind of a chain of thinking or a plan for tomorrow or some retrospective about today or yesterday, but instead just to be unguided. Again, often for me it's walks. What is it for you? When your brain really can re-access that default mode network to become lateral and to re-access its natural creativity, and again, almost by definition, to give your brain more space in which it can properly switch off. Okay, tip number 6 of 7, we are nearly there. Do a weekly brain sweep. This is a simple exercise. It shouldn't take you more than 5 or 10 minutes, and you only need to do it once a week. All you need to do is get a pen and paper, or an app if you wish, and just spend those minutes emptying your mind. Sometimes it's people's, oh, I've got to send my niece a birthday card, oh, I've got to change the insurance there, I also need to buy some shopping here and I need to do this. You see these kind of often home and personal miscellany errands and admin to-dos. And look, your brain is amazing, but it's not the best place to keep hold of anything. As David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done, says, your brain is great for having ideas, really bad for holding on to them. So a brain sweep is a weekly strategy that helps you just clear it all out. It's like a purge. And as you do this, I promise you, not only will you feel this sense of mental overwhelm start to reduce, your ability to focus will improve, your ability to fall asleep will likely be improved, but your ability to switch off will categorically be improved. And as I've said, all it takes is 5 to 10 minutes once a week. Maybe pause the video and do this now. Because of all the techniques that are easy to apply, this is a pretty good candidate. Like I said, pen and paper, and then just spend 5 minutes thinking about what currently is in here but nowhere else. Your brain, once you've done this exercise and once you make it a habit, will be more resourceful on an ongoing basis because quite simply it will be clearer, calmer, and in a better state than it was. Brain sweep once a week. Tip number 7, my friend. You've made it this far. 7 of 7. Practice meditation and mindfulness. I don't know your relationship with these things beginning with M. In my experience, all too often, because of the way they're described, because of the associations people have with them, and maybe misconceptions, they are discarded in terms of, I don't know, pseudoscience, a bit hippie, or I don't know what. Trust me, these things beginning with M, meditation and mindfulness, are really some of the best forms of brain training that we know of. And ultimately what they tend to involve, although there are different types of meditative practice, all of them are exercises in mastering your attention. Most of them tend to involve the deliberate creation of states of mental absorption. That's why they're associated with improved focus, improved concentration. But as you now know, your ability to switch off is also a form of attentional mastery. So it's like the muscle that you use for both of these things, your anterior cingulate, you also train in order for you to get better at switching off, in order for you to become ever less distracted. And this therefore becomes such a valuable skill at helping you get better at switching off whenever you wish, because these exercises help you master your own mind, really. They're that powerful. So practice these things. Go onto my website if you're not already on this website, brainworkshops.co.uk, or below this you'll see some links that will take you to some meditation audio resources. Have a go. Just notice how almost inevitably they give you greater command of your mind and your attention, and consequently, as you practice these things, your ability to switch on, your ability to switch off will almost inevitably be improved. And therefore, your job is to figure out, okay, well, when will I incorporate these practices into my day? And you've already got some suggestions, haven't you? Remember the importance of having a clear deadline and then this transition routine? What better opportunity or better time for you to practice a bit of meditation as you make that transition from day and work to the absence, 5 minutes, 1 minute of breathing and attentional exercises, and already you're setting yourself up for an improved relationship with your time, but really an improved relationship with your brain. Okay, so it's been quite a long session, this one, huh? 7 strategies we've covered to help you switch off, which you now know is really about mastering your attention, using it deliberately and using it consciously. So, tip number 1, have a hard deadline, right? Every day you already know the time beyond which you stop working. Make it clear, make it decisive, and then work to that deadline. That's the first tip. Tip number 2, when that deadline arrives, manage the transition. Have a ritual, like a closing down ritual that takes you from the working, the doing, to the absence of that stuff. Thinking around particular activities, behaviors, it could be little tokens as simple as making a particular drink or a cup of green tea. You figure that out, but have a dedicated ritual that's all about sending the message to your brain that it's time to switch off. Right. Tip number 3, this one is critical. Change your relationship with your mobile phone. Try to use it less in the evenings or when you do want to switch off. Remember, if you are going onto your mobile phone for anything, whether it's an app or news, or it doesn't matter what it is, your brain doesn't have a chance of switching off. And your brain needs time to shift state. Switching off doesn't happen instantly. We all know this. So another way of saying that is your brain needs time to unwind, especially if you want to fall asleep. So try to make sure that at least in the last 60 minutes before you go back to sleep, there's no mobile phone, nothing in your hand, nothing in the bedroom, right? Get these devices out of your environment, and the minute you do that, I promise you, things are likely to improve, not just your ability to switch off, but also your ability to focus. Tip number 4, this is around booking in stuff that you love. Right? Another way to think about switching off is to make sure you can switch on, but to stuff that helps you feel absorbed, immersed, recharged, recovered by doing things that you like, right? That's a good way to think about this, that also probably improves your emotional well-being as well. Tip number 5 was to make sure you have enough mind-wandering time. That unscripted, unguided use, or maybe lack of use of your brain, where your brain tends to go into its default state, whether it's walking around a park, doing things when your brain is not actively demanded of, and consequently you become more creative too. Tip number 6 is to do a weekly brain sweep. Once a week you spend 5 to 10 minutes emptying your mind, pen and paper, get it all out. Any unattended tasks, most of them will probably be personal rather than professional, get them out and keep your mind clear on an ongoing basis. And then tip number 7, practice meditation and mindfulness. Through learning these exercises and through practicing these techniques, not only will your ability to switch off necessarily be improved, you'll also get the benefits of greater attentional mastery in any way that you use your brain. Improved focus, improved emotional regulation, and also this fresh, regained ability for you to get the downtime, the recovery time that you need and your brain has always needed. Okay, my friend, I hope that's been useful. Now, the challenge is, when are you going to do this stuff? So now my final piece is, what's the first thing you're going to change? What's the thing you're going to change today, and what then will be the things you start to implement by the end of this week? Remember, nothing changes until something changes.